Welcome to I Testify Conversation Station. Today's topic is He is Not the One. It's your girl Mel,
Shalicia Harris.
And I'm Romee.
The quote for today says, "Before giving her hand in marriage, every woman should inquire whether he with whom she is about to unite her destiny is worthy," by Ellen G. White. Today's conversation will be broken into 3 parts. Number 1, questions every girl should ask before marriage, the official mate assessment process. Number 2, looking for help? Have you made the right choice? And lastly, broken engagements, breakups. Is it ever too late to walk away, with the exception of marriage? So our first segment is questions every girl should ask before marriage. Now, Romee, what are some questions, or what is your checklist or assessment process that you use to determine if you've made the right choice?
Well, I think before we want to get into like male assessment and how to decipher whether or not we've made the right decision, I think it's important to introspect before we try to assess. So when you look at yourself and you say, okay, Melissa, am I whole? Am I happy as an individual? Am I healthy? Am I ready to get into a relationship? Then you start to realize that, okay, this is who I am, so this is what I will want. Because we're looking for not completion, because we know who we are, but we're looking for a compliment.
Amen.
How do you get a compliment if you don't know, what you are or who you are? So I think it's very important to define that for ourselves, and then it'll be easier, right? Shalicia, to guide, what we want. And then we'll see that, okay, we need somebody who is God-fearing and walks in his purpose, somebody who is ambitious, somebody who is kind. And when we look at this is somebody that we want love from, and God gives us a template of what love is.
Right.
You take love out of the Corinthians equation and you say, okay, Sean is patient, Sean is kind.
Yes.
Does Sean not envy? Does Sean not boast? You know? So it starts there.
So you gotta be the right woman before you look for the right man.
Most definitely.
You gotta be what you're looking for, because a lot of people are looking for things that they're not. And they say you attract what you are. So.
Yeah.
And now, Shalicia, what are a few questions that you ask yourself? For example, one would be, what is his past record?
I think it's very important to understand someone's past and where they've come from and what are they looking to get out of life itself. I think those things are really important, and the way someone structures their life, not necessarily based on the rules they live their life by, but the principles that guide their lives are super, super important to find, because you can both get along really well. You can both love to travel. You can both love coming to church every Saturday. But if the principles that don't drive both your lives aren't the same, then there's no point of you being together. You're going to have difficult times, and the way you make those decisions are based on the principles that drive your life. And so I think when it comes to asking the right questions and what you want to do, it's understanding, how have you made tough decisions in the past? How have you chosen to live your life? And what do you see your life looking like in the future? And that can change at any moment. The future is uncertain to a huge degree, but how are you going to handle those things? And I think understanding how they've done it in the past, it's a great indicator of how it's going to be handled in the future. Because fundamentally, we don't change significantly. We sort of are who we are once we get to a certain place in life. So that's how my questions are guided. It's more about who you are. I can always get to learn the fun things about you and learn your pet peeves and all those little things that might annoy you from day to day. But if our principles aren't aligned and I don't have a good understanding of that, then there's no point of me considering you.
That's true. You made a strong point there, because what people don't realize, you're getting to know each other and all of that. it's a transaction.
Yeah.
He's getting something from you, you're getting something from
Absolutely.
him. So he's going to
Reciprocity.
try to show his best side just like how you're doing. You're not
Yeah.
going to say, here's my bad sides, here's my weaknesses. You know, that's just something over time.
Yeah,
we
that
get
will
to
come
know.
out.
Yeah.
But your past record now will tell me, like, for an example, specifically, who is your ex? How did that situation end? Your responses or your experience in that will tell me who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't judge you and say your past determines what your future will be like. But
yeah.
like you said, let's take it for what it is and how you've dealt with things. Because for me to say, oh, let me worry about what it might be, might get me in trouble if it never becomes.
Yeah.
Potential.
And I think it also goes to, you know, kind of imagining simply just the best things that can come out of it and not necessarily the worst, because when you decide to get married, it's for better or for worse. And do you want to spend your time with somebody that, you know, you don't believe in who they are as a person at their core? Do you want to be with them when they can't do these things for themselves? Otherwise, that's where your resent is going to come from at some point in time.
So now we've dealt with what is his past record, is his love of a noble, elevated character. You talked about 1 Corinthians. What are other questions, other things, tattletale things, or things you could ask him or ask yourself about him?
Person's purpose and them walking in that is going to play a huge part in how we work as a couple, how the dynamic is, what we establish, what we do together, what we don't do together. Because somebody who doesn't know what their purpose is gonna throw off or is gonna be left behind by a person who knows what their purpose is. So for somebody like me who knows that I love to serve and I love to help people, I can't align myself or I can't find a compliment in somebody who doesn't know what they like to do, whether they like to do that or not, or is not on that journey with me. And no, it's not set in stone that, okay, this is what you have to be, and whatever I see now is what's gonna be for the rest of our lives. No. If I decide that this is what I want to do now and I'm steadfast in it, life is a journey, life is a process. And if I want to take on that process with you, I have to know where I'm going. I have to have a certain sense of direction, and he has to have that too. So I think sense of direction and walking in your purpose is very, very important. And that's one question I would ask.
I think it's quite interesting that a lot of people will look for somebody who has it all together. Like you talk about purpose. It's nice to find someone with purpose.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough. And you
No.
mentioned something powerful about helping people.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for somebody whose character traits could set them up to be successful.
Exactly.
You know, it's not just getting it done or having $1 million that makes a man. You know, that doesn't give the man power. That just makes him someone who has $1 million.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to have somebody who has purpose, and that purpose is driven by a love of people, because that tells me that he has a love for Christ.
Yes.
You know, and that's how, you know, so yeah, that was a very powerful point.
I do think purpose is, you know, a journey as well too in itself. So as long as you're actively, you know, seeking
Pursuing that.
Yes.
I think that's really important, because some people just have, you know, they have an end goal, and when you get there, you become too comfortable in yourself, and you also don't want to see that as, this is my sole purpose, there's no other purpose for me. And sometimes that is what it is, but you may not find that is your purpose throughout the rest of your life, and that can change at any point.
And that leads to somebody allowing the other person to grow. Like,
Yes. Preach.
oh man. Whew. You made mention of the point that, you know, some people latch on to people just because they see potential or they see promise or they see that that person has found their purpose. That's so dangerous, because then they start to stifle the other person because they don't have that for themselves. They haven't found that. They haven't established their individuality. that's tough for me because I'm a girl. I love my space. Can you please like give me my space?
Yes.
And when you realize
Yes.
that that person has nothing for themselves, doesn't know who they are, is no one for themselves, then it becomes very stifling, and
Become a leech.
it squeezes the life out of the relationship because you're now not giving me space to be an individual. And I think a lot of us in relationships, we have a misconception that we are a couple now and, oh, I can't be seen without my boyfriend and I can't do anything without my boyfriend. You're doing this, and they're like, oh, where is that person? Don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a person in and of
Yes.
myself. He's a person in and of himself. I will pursue things. He will pursue things. And it's not, yes, we feed off each other's energy. Yes, we have a working dynamic, but there must be some
Yes.
space to allow each other to be individuals.
So can I preserve my judgment is the question. Can I preserve my judgment in this relationship, or my conscience, or must I surrender it to the other person? Because sometimes we find
Never
ourselves, like
surrender.
you said, you find yourself being a leech because you have fallen in love with, he has this, he has that, they have that. You're not holding yourself, like you said. You got to be holding yourself. And now it's like everything is kind of like whatever you say,
Yeah,
whatever you want.
yeah.
But you got to be your own individual, because that's how God sees you. You know, when he judges, he's not going to say, this is, you know, he looks at you and he says, what have you done with your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're going to turn to our Bibles and we're going to see, what does the Bible tell us in terms of assessment? What is important? How should we do it? What should we look for?
1 Samuel 16, verse 7 says, But the Lord said unto Samuel, Look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh at the heart.
I think it's important to get to know someone for who they are, because the physical is only going to tell you so much. And I think in today's world, like, attraction is the main driver for a lot of things, and people don't get to learn who somebody truly is to their core. And I think that's ultimately what this verse is talking about. It's you can look a certain way, but who you are and your intentions and who is leading you could be so different, could be so different, you know? Outward appearances are deceiving a lot of the times. And it's like, you know, the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yes.
So if you take that exact comparison and you look at someone and, you know, you're on these quote unquote dating apps now today and you're swiping left and you're swiping right.
Yes.
And you're just like, this is how you're making your decision as to who I'm going to talk to versus
Wow.
getting to know that person at their core and what does their heart say? What are their true intentions versus just picking them based on their outward appearance. And so I think there's a strong correlation there in terms of, you know, when you're picking someone, the outwardness is only going to last for so long, because David was
There it
chosen
is.
as a boy, and
He got
look
old.
at how powerful he became later on. And that could be the exact same thing for you in your life today. And I think that's how you can really apply that verse to your life.
Now, it's the last part that says God judges the heart.
Yeah.
And you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that we have to be the right woman before we find the right man.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that, you know, when you're connected to God and you're grounded, he will give you the mind of Christ. You know, you will start to think like God. You're not God, but you start to think like God. That's what he implements your mind. He changes your carnal mind, that sinful nature, to now be able to have wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And so when he does that, you're now able to look at someone. You're in harmony with God in a way that you're able to look at someone and know how to judge character properly. And that's what separates God's people from the world. And that's why, you know, you see the way relationships are going. There's something that's missing. And that something is what we need to really get down to in order for us to determine, have I made the right choice?
I actually have a question. Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Yeah, that's a thing, yes.
You know how they say, well, we believe God wants the best for us, right? In a physical sense, what is best for us? You know, because we have a certain desire. And you
Yes.
know, that's a huge part of relationship.
Yeah.
So where do we find the balance between allowing the physical to matter, but not allowing it to matter too much? Like, how do we strike that balance?
I think that's a really great question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Very powerful question.
That's why I was here thinking, like, I don't have anything to say because I like what I like, you know?
Yes.
And I like to be attracted and I like to feel, you know, a certain
Feel-
way
yes.
toward.
Look at your man and say, yeah, baby.
That's yeah. So where do we strike the balance? Or is it for us to strike the balance?
It's for us to
Yeah.
strike the balance, the work
Yeah.
that comes within. But I also believe, you know, if you believe that Christ is the Savior that He is, and that
Yeah.
He's that friend, and God is the Father, it's like a father and child relationship, then just like your parent, you say, Mom, I want purple, why would she give you red? Right? She knows what's best for you. Maybe purple is maybe not good. Maybe she might give you green, but she's going to try her best to give you what's best for you, but take into account what you want. And so I strongly believe when you have that relationship with God, He wants you to have what you want.
Yeah.
As long as it's not going to lead you astray. You get what I'm saying? So you can ask, like I've had prayers where I say, God, I can't have a short guy. He gotta be above 6 foot. He may not be 6'6", but I'm asking. And if that's your will for my life, then so be it. But if you give me something that's not that, then give me the peace that when I meet him, I will just be able to see character and go with it. Because that's what I want in my life. I want peace. I don't want a 6'6" guy and not have peace.
And I think that it all goes back to like the personal growth and like who you are.
Yeah.
And if you haven't gotten to that point where you can be at peace with yourself
Yes.
based on how the person physically looks, then you're probably not at the right phase.
Yeah.
Right?
There
You're
we
just
go.
Yes.
you just haven't gotten there yet
Yeah.
to meet the right person that probably still is going to have a lot of things that you're looking for. And
That's deep.
that's what
Yeah.
I think. And I think the more you get to know someone, the more attractive they become.
I thought of the question, will he be patient with my mistakes, or will he be critical and overbearing and dictatorial?
And condescending. And the problem with that, it doesn't always start with an overbearing hand, or it takes
very
time to
small.
get to that
serpent.
point.
Sneaky.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
little
Very small.
increments here and there, and it increases and it increases. With any type of abuse, with any type of mistreatment, with any type of, putting down of the other person, it doesn't always, especially in the first phase, you said it earlier, we're all trying to be liked and put on our best self.
Yes.
But then what happens in year 2, year 3, and you realize that, wow, this person really cannot bring across a point without putting mine down. This person really can't teach me something without being condescending. It really becomes a problem.
But you
Massive
start to realize
problem.
that they were doing it before.
Yeah,
And that's the
in
worst
little
part.
ways.
Passion is a strong thing. I don't think we really
girl.
understand. Like, it's not something you just wake up and say, let me have control over my passion. Or that attractiveness. It's that, it's really hard. Like you said, you just have to be grounded. But it reminds me of how much I have to be connected with God, because I'm not able to overcome those weaknesses. We're sinful in nature, And so if you're not daily consecrated on that sanctification journey, your passions will get the best of you and you become blinded to judgment.
And if you both aren't, because I find that in a lot of relationships these days, we are very individual about our spirituality. And we don't take the spirituality to the union the way it's supposed to be, It's not normalized that young couples or age, we're dating, like we're just dating. It's weird to say, oh, come, let's pray together. It's the anomaly.
uncomfortable, yes.
You say it's weird. It's easy for you to say, okay, How about we go out? How about we link up? How about we meet up to do this or that? But to say, hey, let's pray before bed tonight. Weird. Like, okay, what's wrong with this person? You know? But we need to start taking our spirituality to the union. So whatever growth needs to happen, because we're not going to find anybody perfect.
Yes.
But perfect is the goal. So what are we going to do? You're growing over there and I'm growing over here. You're spiritual here and I'm spiritual there. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
If we're a union, let's be about it. Let's be a union in everything, you know, always, always. So I feel like it's very important. And we play a part. You play a part in your partner's, let's say, holiness. Because when you realize your impact on the person, and when you realize that person is passionate about you, and you are passionate about that person, you know that you can sway that person that way.
Preach, somebody. Yes.
and that person can sway you another way.
Yes.
And it can be just, you know, y'all gone with the wind. But if you're grounded and he's grounded and you're grounded together, then hey,
You move and sing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel
I
like
like that.
part of the fear is I don't want to put my convictions on you. And once you have that fear, you can't work together. There's something wrong. You're already detached. So already tell yourself, like, I'm on a losing ground here, because we like to do that. Like, oh, I don't want to put it on him. I don't want to put pressure on him. Then he might not be it.
And if spirituality is pressure, then that's not it.
And we want
not
to trick
it.
our minds like, no, this is okay. Like, eventually he'll get there. If I just do, then no.
Yeah.
That's already a problem. If you have to say to yourself, oh, I'm here and he's here. I'm not saying people can't grow.
Yeah.
But if you already feel like I can't be me, I can't say I'm going to church today because he might say, oh, and be offended. Like, if that's an offense that I'm praying, if it's an offense that I'm about to open the word, if it's an offense that I'm about to keep God's commandments within the relationship, then it might not be it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
1 Corinthians 11, verse 3, and it reads, "But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God." Once you have the understanding that, you know, he is connected to Christ, he must be connected to Christ just as much as you must be connected to God. And he is leading the home, you know, as that role, that key role. You choose who's going to lead your home.
Yeah.
Nobody makes that decision for you.
Yeah.
So you can't be upset with what it is.
You know, as women, and we want to be a strong woman, and you want to be independent, but when God says that you need to submit to your husband, it calls for a certain level of humility and lowliness of heart, that if we are in line with Christ,
Yes.
we will trust that when he says that, he will give us the right person to submit to. You can't ask me to submit to somebody who's not giving me anything to submit to. I've met boys and I've met men. And trust me, like, it's not that hard.
It's not.
It's not that hard to submit or to surrender. And no, you don't seep into the other person. You're still your individual.
Yes.
You still
Yes.
have your roles in the relationship. You still have the things, the ideologies, the habits, the lifestyle, the deciding, some sorts of deciding power, some part of the conversation to add to the relationship. You don't lose everything. But I feel like where submission is concerned, that man has to follow God. That's the prerequisite.
Yes.
That's the prerequisite for whether or not the woman sees something to submit to.
Yes.
And if you see something to submit to, as I said before, it's not that tough.
It's not that tough.
It's not that tough. You just find yourself being like, okay, yeah, I see what you see, and I'm
Yes.
gonna go ahead with that.
Yes.
You know, we work as a unit. You hear me out. Because if we think about the leader that God is,
Yes.
And we think about, okay, if that man is following the leader that God is, then I want to be in line with that person. Because God is an active listener as much as we need to surrender to him. It's not an authoritative, kind of dictative kind of relationship. No.
Exactly.
No, he takes into consideration your needs and wants. He listens to you. He cares for you. He wants the best for you. He allows you to make your own choices. He gives you freedom. So come on, girl.
Exactly.
Girl,
And I mean, the verse
we
says
can
that,
do this.
God is the head of Christ.
Yeah.
We don't see God being dictatorial
yeah.
to Christ.
Yeah.
We see them working together as one.
Unit.
As a unit. They are one and the same. And that's what it is. You come together to be one flesh as God is with Christ. They have different roles in the plan of salvation.
There we go.
But together, they are God.
Likewise,
right?
or relationships. We will have different roles, what he will do, like I'm not going to do, and vice versa.
Exactly.
But
when we come together, it's nothing but power and building empires. Yes. And so just to wrap up this segment, the 3 questions we should ask ourselves is, number 1, will this relationship will this relationship bring me heavenward, lead me heavenward?
Yeah.
Number 2, will it increase my love for God? And number 3, will it enlarge my sphere of usefulness in this life? And if we can answer those 3 questions and reflect on them, then you move forward, right? Okay. Now we're going to listen to a word from Haley Panton as she gives us a word of advice on who can be our counsel, who in our lives can we go to help us to know if we've made the right choice. She's going to share with us key questions, a few questions she asked herself, or a word of advice for us young women who are looking to get married.
Let me start off by saying Job 12 and verse 12 tells us, is not wisdom found among the aged? Does not long life bring understanding? And so this person that you would approach would need to have experience, an older adult who has some experience in in having relationships and have a knowledge of relationship issues. This person would need to be someone who you can trust, who would be honest enough to be able to tell you if you are going in the right direction, and will be able to give you some godly guidance. Hopefully, at this particular time, this person would be able to express to you how you go about knowing if this is the right person for you. Is this person someone who is kind and gentle? Are they honest? Are they someone with integrity? Do they love God? And by loving God, they're not just saying words, they're actually showing with their actions. They're demonstrating to you their love and care for people. In Matthew, it tells us that there are basically 2 commandments, the love of God and the love of each other. And so how do they demonstrate their love of another person? Do they show this through their actions? Are they someone who will encourage you to be the best version of yourself? Are they someone who is open to learning? Because the minute we stop learning, or we close ourselves off from learning, then we actually stop growing and change cannot occur. Another thing we want to be able to know is this person patient? Is this person a wise person? And again, patience, because having a relationship, it takes some time. You have to recognize that it is a journey, it's a process. And so having those conversations that will be able to help you to know this person's character, knowing how they behave when they're angry, for example, knowing how they behave when they're sad. Are they closed off, or are they open enough to be able to express themselves to you? So another thing that I find that can be quite helpful is taking this individual in your friend circle and amongst your family members. Now, you're not necessarily asking for advice from your friends or family. And again, that is something, if you have trusted friends or family members, they can be honest enough with you to tell you if they see anything or any red flags. Then at the end of the day, you need to be able to listen to what people say. It's your life. You're the one that's going to be living it. But taking them in the family circle or friend circle, this basically is just to see how they interact with other people. When you're just meeting, everybody's on their best behavior. And so you have to be patient with the process, because after a while, the true self will come out. If you're in the relationship long enough, you'll be able to see certain things and be able to recognize if you're compatible, or are there things that you see that may raise some concerns, but are they things that you can actually live with? Job 12 and verse 12 says, "Is not wisdom found among the aged? Like I said before, does not long life bring understanding?" And Psalm 27 and verse 14 says, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart." Wait, I say, on the Lord. Ask God. Ultimately, that's the person who will tell you for sure if this person is the right person for you. God will guide you. Seek him earnestly, because he's the one who's made us. He knows exactly who would be perfect for us. So trust God. But it's patience again. We have to learn to be patient, because God will lead and guide us in the right path.
Breakups. Is it ever too late to walk away? This is before marriage. It's not in the marital relation, before.
Never.
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 Never, never, never.
Never.
I'm glad we're on
Run.
the same page.
Never.
Run and never look back. I think we get scared. The best way to put it is there are a lot of women who fear separation, the pain that comes with separation, and they will overlook the lifelong misery and suffering.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you either take the temporal, you either overlook the temporal to get the eternal, and that's unfortunate.
And a lot of us see separation as rejection because of past traumas and stuff that we've gone through that we haven't healed from. And that's why when I started, like, introspection is so important, because when you are not whole and you come to the relationship as a half, and you're looking for the other half from that person,
Yes.
it makes you miserable, especially when it has to end, especially when you don't find it. So you have to be whole. Whole before you get there, whole in it, whole after it. Yeah.
Yes.
You just, oh my God.
What about the fear of, like, for example, you go as far as engagement, the fear of, our families are not blended.
Embarrassment.
Everybody's connected. So if I walk away from this, I might, curse the family name or embarrass everybody, because you hear people say, don't embarrass me. You've come this far,
I think I really wanted to comment on that, so I'm glad you brought that up. Like, this is your life. This is your happiness, and you could be at the altar, and if there is something deep inside of you, regardless of it must, I think there's a healthy amount of fear to have when going. It's a big step. It's a massive step in your life, probably one of the biggest you'll probably make. But if it's more than that, if there are these little nagging things that can become really big things further on in your life, you have to be willing to say, I am willing to live with this. And if you can't say that to yourself, then you need to walk away. And maybe it's not that that person isn't the right person for you. This maybe isn't just the right time for both of you.
And I don't know about you, but I would rather waste 5 years or see 5 years go down the drain than forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, forever is a long
It's a
time
long
to be
time.
unhappy.
Yeah.
It's a long
So
time.
long.
Like, I think of myself and I think of some of, not necessarily the bad decisions, but some of the things just didn't go my way.
Yeah.
And those are all the key pinnacles and the key boosters of my personal growth. And like you said, if those people didn't come into your life at that point in time, were you really gonna learn anything?
Yeah.
Everyone is placed in your life for a reason to some degree. And it's up to you to take out of that what you need to become that better person and to move on and to grow from it.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah, and let's not treat relationships before the marriage as a marriage, because forever
It's
is not guaranteed.
And so this brings us to the end of our discussion. We said in the beginning, the 3 questions you should ask yourself is 1, will this relationship lead me heavenward? Number 2, will it increase my love for God? And lastly, will it enlarge my sphere of influence in this life or usefulness in this life? Ask God for wisdom. He will direct you. May God be the ultimate counselor. It is never too late to run away. Once you say I do, it is registered in the books of heaven. But before that, run and never look back. And so, this is I Testify Conversation Station.